Hello everyone, this is Grandpa Growth, CommanderCast.com, giving you the deck tech for the He Who Hungers deck I played against Mark this week. He Who Hungers, legendary spirit creature. It flies. You can sacrifice a spirit to have the opponent reveal their hand. You choose a card from it, they discard that card. You can only activate it as a sorcery. It also has Soul Shift, but that's somewhat less relevant. So major themes in this deck: we want to have our opponent discarding cards. We want to have spirits in play to sacrifice to He Who Hungers. Begin with the mana base. We've got Ancient Tomb, then Strip Mine, Dust Bowl, Wasteland. I don't leave home without them. Urborg to make everything into a swamp, and then Cabal Coffers to capitalize on the number of swamps we have. We can also produce multiple mana through a Nykthos. This deck is capable of putting quite a few black mana symbols in play, so that's usually good for 4 or 5. And Crypt of Agateem, which this deck actually does not have very many creatures in it. There's not a whole lot of black spirit creatures to begin with. Crypt of Agateem probably better off as a swamp, I would guess, or some other land. We just can't consistently trigger it for multiple mana. Cavern of Souls, kind of the same thing. Like, this is a tribal deck, so we're in on spirits, but this does make them uncounterable, but sometimes it doesn't produce black mana, which can be a problem. Shizo gives creatures fear, and we have a lot of legendary creatures in our deck. Bojuka Bog to remove the opponent's graveyard. And then we've got 3 fetch lands: Marsh Flats, Bloodstained Mire, Polluted Delta. It doesn't really matter, just play whichever ones you want. And Myriad Landscape to put multiple swamps into play. We've got 25 swamps in the deck for a total of 40 lands. All of them produce mana. We have 12 accelerators. Burnished Heart, sad robot. Extraplanar Lens, and one thing that came up in the games is Mark was able to produce mana from my Extraplanar Lens, so really all these swamps should be snow covered. That's one oversight when I was hastily putting the deck together before we began recording. I did this in about maybe 15 minutes. But we've also got Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble, Mana Vault, Expedition Map to go find Strip Mine or Urborg or Cabal Coffers, Grim Monolith to make a ridiculous amount of mana, Cold Steel Heart and Charcoal Diamond as cheap ways to accelerate. I've been kind of disappointed with more expensive sources of mana like Gilded Lotus or Thran Dynamo recently. It's just more important to me to be able to get off the ground in the beginning of the game rather than really be able to accelerate into huge things later. In a deck like this, it's kind of grindy, and I'm going to be interacting with a lot of my opponent's resources by having them discard cards. So as long as I can get to 4 or 5 mana, I can be productive. I don't really need to get to 8 mana to close out the game immediately. Speaking of discard, we have 5 ways to make our opponent discard: Duress, Thoughtseize, and Inquisition of Kozilek. Again, another one of these trifectas I would not consider leaving home without. If you have Swamp in your deck, I always play these 3 cards, period. We also have Mind Twist and Mind Shatter to basically win the game. If you're able to get out a quick Soul Ring or Mana Crypt and then Mind Twist your opponent for their whole hand on turns 2 or 3, you're probably going to win that game. We have several ways to search through our deck: Increasing Ambition, Imperial Seal, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, and a bunch of ways to draw cards: Night's Whisper, Sign in Blood. We also have Beseech the Queen, Necropotence, Skull Clamp, because we have lots of things going to the graveyard and ways to get things back, and Erebos, God of the Dead. Like I said, we're capable of putting a lot of black mana symbols in play to get our devotion up. Normally, Erebos is not very good. I would consider playing him as a commander, but not as part of the 99, unless you have a very permanent-based game plan. Because we're capable of turning him into a creature, an indestructible 5/7 that draws cards is better than just a greed. We have 4 ways to get things back out of the graveyard. Oversold Cemetery is a personal favorite of mine. Whip of Erebos. Because we don't have too many creatures, this can sometimes be a problem, but I'm hoping that Lifelink is enough of a bonus to counteract that. Usually if the game goes super late and we run out of things to whip, we were probably losing that game anyway. Yawgmoth's Will should be banned. Pretty clearly, the EDHRC does not have a firm grasp on competitive Magic. And Victimize. usually good for putting 2-card combos into play. We have no combo targets in this deck, unfortunately. So Victimize is just sort of like a value card where we can sacrifice a Bloodghast and get back something better. We have a small removal package, starting with Dictate of Erebos. I don't like to play too many investment style enchantments like this, but because we have a sacrifice theme going on with He Who Hungers, we can potentially get a couple cards out of this. Normally, I don't like to play cards like this because they're so expensive, and it's not a removal spell when you desperately need it to be one. It's only a removal spell when you've fully developed your game plan and you're really winning. So things like just a regular Doomblade are often going to perform better than cards like this, but it fits the theme of the deck, so I'm running it. Seize the Soul is probably the most obvious cut that I would make after having played a couple games of the deck. Seize the Soul fits the themes, and then it puts spirit tokens in play that you could potentially sacrifice. But the fact that it can't destroy white or black creatures, that's just too many important cards in the format that this is incapable of killing. So I would consider cutting it. Hero's Downfall. We do have a lot of creatures in play, ideally, but we can't always necessarily pressure planeswalkers effectively because some of our creatures, like Bloodghast, maybe can't get through. So Hero's Downfall solves that problem for us. We have a Broken Visage, which I've talked about before, but this card kills an attacker, lets you block with it to kill their other attacker, and it leaves a spirit token in play that we can sacrifice to He Who Hungers. You'd have to do it that turn, but that's fine. It's sort of like either on offense or defense, but not both. But that's great. Good enough for me. Smallpox, little grindy card, part of this smokestack, I guess combo package. It's very small, but Mark requested I play smokestacks, and if I'm going to play smokestacks, I'm going to make a deck that Smallpox would be good in. We want them discarding cards. We can use it to make them sacrifice a creature, and I'm okay with both players going down a land because I don't cheat on land, as you may have heard. And finally, Chainer's Edict, just for some cheap way to kill creatures and card advantage. This next pile is things that don't really fit into another category. We have Wretched Confluence and Profane Command, which both kill creatures and get things back out of the graveyard. Wretched Confluence also a way to draw some cards. Haven't really been impressed with this card so far, but I'm still trying it out, being that it's very new. Crucible of Worlds, don't leave home without it, especially when you're playing Wasteland and Strip Mine. It's just an easy way to win games. Mimic Vat potentially lets us stick a spirit like Kakusho on it, and then we can constantly get back spirits or put spirit tokens into play every turn and sack them. Smokestack, we already talked about. It's fantastic. Waste Not. Normally, I'm not a big fan of this card, but it is kind of fun. I don't play decks like this too much where like the themes dominate the strategy. So I thought it would be a fun inclusion, and it's a good 99th card to play around with and have some fun. Next we have the package of spirit creatures. Bloodghast and Nether Trader are ways to, they're creatures that recur themselves, which gives you a way to sacrifice multiple things to He Who Hungers throughout the game. Kagamaru is a spirit creature that's also a board sweeper, depending on how many cards you have in your hand. Graveborn Muse lets you draw extra cards at the cost of some life. We have Infernal Kirin, which allows you to have your opponent discard even more cards. You'll notice some of these cards are not fantastic, but the selection of black spirit creatures is very limited. So this card does really fit the themes, but it's just probably not powerful enough to play in normal Commander. Okuda, Born of Ash, is another spirit that can recur itself. It's also got a sizable body, like 3 damage a turn is not horrible, and it has haste. So it can potentially pressure your opponent's life total or a planeswalker while also pressuring their hand. Keening Banshee is a spirit. It flies, kills things. Cryptghast doubles our mana and gives spells Extort, which helps us gain back a little bit of life that we might have lost to, like the Necropotence or the Night's Whisper or whatever. Adaptive Automaton, technically a spirit. It pumps all our other spirits, which is not super relevant in this deck, but it's cheaper and more powerful than some of the other spirits that I could potentially play. I think there's maybe 20 in total. Volras Lab lets us put spirit tokens into play. And Kakusho, probably the primary win condition of this deck. Kakusho it's a solid threat. It gains you life, kills your opponent. It's pretty great. Karn Liberated and Ugin, kind of the top end of our Planeswalkers. I have not built a deck that does not include these cards in many moons. Obnixilus Reignited, I've been very impressed by this card so far. New as a Battle for Zendikar, but it does everything a Planeswalker should do. It kills creatures, draws you extra cards with its positive loyalty abilities. At that point, the ultimate could be a ham sandwich because you don't care. Like, you've drawn several cards and you swept your opponent's board. What else do you need? Liliana Original and Liliana of the Dark Realms. These go in very different directions, but Liliana tutor and helps us discard our opponent's hand, so it definitely fits the themes here. And Liliana of the Dark Realms is just a very consistent way to tutor up extra mana, and being that we're a mono black deck, we can put a lot of swamps into play to potentially give the minus ability some play. And that's that. Hope you guys enjoy the match.